Ungaputhelwa ikhumbule ekhaya njalo ngolesithathu kusihlwa ngehora lesishagalolunye ku SABC 1.
Sikwamukela futhi mbukele ke tincingo tethu futhi vuliwe ukuthi ke nawe ungaba ingcenye yalenkulumo yethu sishayele ke licingo ku 0117146918 noma ke 0117146919 ne email yethu ke it's consumer@sabc.co.za satfolakala futhi ku Facebook na ku Twitter. Let's continue our conversation with Mahauta Mpahlele. Now Mahauta, let me also welcome you back to this conversation. Now kuna nakulokuthiwa ke yi unsecured loan ukuthi ke kahle kahle yini unsecured loan, is it the way to go ukuthi ema consumers ayithathe leyo unsecured loan as a result of the devastation caused by coronavirus?
Yeah, unfortunately, unsecured loan is the most accessible because we have different types of loan. You have a mortgage that is to ukuthenga indlu, and you can't buy a house every day. So uzothenga indlu and get your loan. And then you also get a vehicle finance, then, you know, that is for the car. And then in between, your unsecured is your credit cards, your personal loans, your payday loans. So usually, siyabafundisa abantu the difference between the types of loans, especially as well as the cost of the loan. Because your cheapest loan is your mortgage. So if umuntu unendlu, and then what you can do ukuthi, because the problem is that when problems happen, is that as now I'm a saving. So then you go to getting loans, but sometimes if you understand ukuthi zisebenza kanjani lezinto, you can borrow from your home loan if you have a home loan, especially during the good times. Make sure ukuthi upatala extra into your home loan. Then you can have an access bond. A problem, you can withdraw from your home loan. And usually the interest the home loan is very low. Whereas your credit cards and personal loans, the interest rate is very high.
So yini ma advantages nama disadvantages secured loan ne unsecured loan?
A secured loan in Njengoba the reason why it is called secured, I gave an example. Indlu, mortgage is a secured loan because what happens is that if you cannot pay, the credit provider can go and sell the house and get their money back. That is why it is called secured. Unsecured, there is nothing that is securing the loan. So what happens if you can't pay that loan? The credit provider will take legal action and get a court order. The court order can allow them to list you at the credit bureau. That means you will have a judgment against your name, which affects your credit profile. Or they can get like credit ombud said, they can get a garnishee order. That is an order that forces your employer to deduct a certain amount of money from your salary. So that is why it is called unsecured. There's nothing that they can sell to get their money back, but they can take legal action to force you to pay. But sometimes, and we've seen it, abanye abantu abana mali to pay at all. So what you will be left with is a judgment against your name, which sits for 5 years on your credit profile.
So Mahauta, should we read it in the context of a bad loan and a good loan? What is a bad loan? What is a good loan?
For us, the obvious one is that a house is a good loan because it creates wealth. You are sitting with an asset that grows. So you can buy a house for 500,000 today. 2 years later, it will have gone up to be 600,000. So that is good. But sometimes you are forced to take an unsecured loan. So lapho sibheka ama reasons sokuthi why have you taken that unsecured loan? You might want to pay for university. So it's not that bad because umuntu maka graduate, there will be something that they can show. I took out a loan, I paid for my studies. But some of us are taking loans to, we don't even know ukuthi siwasebenziselani. Omunye umuntu utshilo ukuthi sifuna ukubonisa, so you are buying things that will not benefit you at the end, mhlambe izimpahla and things like that. But unfortunately, sometimes, and we've seen that people have to take unsecured loans because they have to buy food, they have to buy medicine and things like that because their income is not enough or the income has gone down. So akufane for different people. But generally speaking, we are saying stay away from unsecured loans unless you have a very good reason why you want to take that loan, because even if in terms of interest rates, it attracts the highest interest rate, unlike a mortgage, a car, and sometimes a credit card, if you know how to use it.
But when the example you would see, unsecured loan, for instance, your personal loan. Lo munye ke utawuthi ke ufuna ukuthatha le personal loan ahambe ende tinfotsite maybe ku-improve alikhaya lakhe noma ke ku-investa. Ukuthi would that be the right cause of would that be the right route to take?
Well, for me, the first thing, it's better to save up to improve your home. And sometimes you can borrow from your mortgage for home improvements, which means it will still attract a lower interest rate. So I'm re-advance in terms of your bond. So abantu fanele educate about the different types of credit and how they can access emergency funds, for example, if you have a bond. Also with unsecured loans, unfortunately, be very careful. I think sometimes abantu, they borrow based on what they are earning now, but they don't consider things like interest rates ayakhuphuka, baba nama emergencies. So what will happen if I've borrowed 100,000 and I have an emergency? So it's very important to not take everything disposable income. Make sure that you are saving something for emergencies so that when things happen, you don't have to run away ungaphendula my phone like other people say. But during a pandemic, unfortunately, people, even those bebanama savings, are paying my savings because the lockdown will be 1 year old next month, which means that because most people say you must have savings for 6 months. 6 months in Rulila, abantu asana mali. So we can't be judging people and say you did not save. Even those who saved, the money is gone, the jobs are not there. So it's a very difficult situation for most people.
All right, Mahauta, thank you so much for your time. Please stay on the line. We'll certainly continue with this conversation in just a moment. But for now, let's take our first caller. All right, we've got Audrey from Soweto.
Yebo.
Yebo siyaphila kunjani make? Please speak to us.
Oh. Ngimake la shop kodwa ngiganeka shabalala.
Okay.
Yeah, ngine problem ngo Telecom. Ba suspenda ifone yami 2019. And then bayangiharasa. Ngayibhadala imali na the end of 2019. And na last year ngibhadale 2,000 something. Nginama receipt. Manje bathi angathi ngibhadale 1,000 malini. Ngathi kube ngizaya lapha eoffice. Yabo.
Okay. All right, mashallah siyabonga kakhulu kusishayela. We'll have your response after the break. Kwanyalo ke mbukeli asasisishelele ngasetitolo. Siyabuya khona nyalo. Leli lungelo la.
Mrs. Balls, Mrs. Balls, Mrs. Balls, Mrs. Balls. We got a thing going on.
If you getting up, then I'm leading. This vibe is all I'm yearning for. Feels like my soul you're feeding. Let's dance a day away and have some fun. I like the way we feel the beat. When we're walking down the street, we like to move our feet.
Remember, it's class photos tomorrow.
Most of the time, you will never see the work we do because all we want for the kids we help is what they want, to be just like their friends. Donate to the Smile Foundation today.
Sanibingelela nonke emakhaya. Hle re kena re dumedisa and welcome to a brand new series of the chat room. Le tsebe he hore se re tlotsa dintho ka tsela e fapafapaneng mme re ikemiseditse hore re thuse bohle ba kopang thuso ya rona. Kuma episode ethu ke amasha, we're going to have an elder aka Umzali appear. Sizomazi as Impintshi kanye nomxazululi aka iChangemaker. So after amasho umxazululi wethu will guide ama participants abhalela lana ku show yethu. And Tinage, we are going to keep you updated on our social media platform for e-progress. You catch us in our brand new time slot. Hanamona on SABC 1. Zanzi for sure.
Welcome back. Kumbula ke uthi tincingo ntetho sethivuliwe ukuthi ke nabe ungaba ingcenye lehlelo lethu. Sishayele ke lapha e-studio ku-0117146918 noma ke 0117146919. You can also email your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za or catch us on our social media platforms. Now, Mahauta, let's continue with this conversation. We've heard a caller from Soweto kumake shabalala lapha uthi ube ne dispute ke na Telkom ngoba Telkom bekaloku athi akabhadale ke imali engathi understand ukuthi qhamukapi atibhadale bo 2000 1000 for the past 2 years. So okay,
the contract, Anna, is a fixed term contract in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. So she must lodge a complaint with the National Consumer Commission or with the Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman. In number of Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman is 011-781-2607. Bazamnceda ngokuthi alodge a complaint yakhe kanjani.
All right, now Howard, let me also welcome you back to this conversation. Now earlier, before we went to that ad break, Mahauta and I were just discussing the advantages and the disadvantages of secured and unsecured debt, and that can be read in the same context as good or bad debt. So what's your perspective on good and bad debt, and what kind of debts should consumers avoid at all times?
I think the first important thing to say to consumers, if it is at all possible, you must budget properly and you must provide in your budget for savings, even if it is a small amount of money. It is a good practice to save money rather than just making credit that you cannot afford. So that's the first important point we've got to advise consumers. Now, good debt it depends on what you're going to do with the money you borrow. So if you're going to borrow money and you use it to build a house or support your car that allows you to go to work or earn a living, or you invested in a business that is going to generate an income, then that would be good debt. Bad debt is when you want to borrow money for things that are not necessary at any point in time. So, like myself, I like to keep up with my neighbors. So if they've got a fancy party, I must also have a fancy party, and so on. And that would be the wrong thing to do, is to invest money in those kinds of things. So it's really important that consumers understand that getting into debt is not necessarily bad. It depends on what you're doing with the money you've got. And can you support yourself doing this? Sometimes we have an increase in salary. Then we think, okay, now I can go buy the most expensive fridge. We go to the store, we put ourselves in debt for 15 or 20,000 rand just for the fancy fridge. When in fact, maybe we should have saved.
But Howard, there is a consumer who may take a personal loan to buy food and maintain the home for sustenance as a result of loss of employment or job cuts, which so many South Africans have experienced in the past year. So would that be classified under a bad debt? Because buying food is absolutely necessary for livelihoods and sustenance.
I agree, because what we've got last year is an extraordinary situation where over a long period of time, a large number of people in our country went through very difficult times in losing their jobs or in a reducing of their incomes. So in that situation, you're finding more and more people are relying on less people that are employed, and more people are going hungry, and they have to resort to different means to support their families. So I agree that what we went through last year is an extraordinary where people are now having to borrow money for emergencies, but emergency is different to
all right, Howard, please hold your thought for a second there, Howard. We'll certainly touch base with you in just a moment, because we have to take this caller. She's been holding on for a very long time. Poko, sawubona.
Sawubona bhuti,
siyaphela kunjani baba?
Ngiphilile my
Khuluma nathi baba, what's on your mind?
On my mind, I'm not the spokesperson of the taxi people, but I just want to on this issue, because look, these are mostly black people who have contributed so much during this pandemic in terms of transporting essential workers and stuff like that, and most of them are financed by the well-known notorious SA taxi finance. But now the problem is that these fellow South Africans who are trying to make living through taxi operation, most of them, or some of them, they are unable to make the same revenue as they were making, because people now are working on rotation, on shift, and some have lost employment. So which means now, obviously, their revenue, they are being affected. Now, you've got some of them, for instance, who are paying around 12,000 or 15,000 rand for a minibus, a 15-seater. Now, this SA taxi, it gave them, yes, those 3 months payment holiday for that period. But beyond that, they have not, and they continue to repossess people's vehicles. Now, my question is to the credit ombudsman: how best can you able to assist the taxi industry on this issue?
Howard Daniels, I'm sure you've been listening. This is a very, very important question, and that needs to be tackled. But please hold your thoughts. We'll take this short break. We'll be back shortly thereafter. That was Apoko from Pretoria.
Losing a father and a husband is one of the hardest things a family can go through. You need all the